Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us today for the webinar series, Global Roundtable on Climate Action in Tourism, Supporting Climate Resilient Tourism Development. We are very delighted to have you here today with us, and we appreciate that you chose to spend these few hours with us. So just to start, I would like to share the agenda of today so we get to know what we are going to have. So we will start with some opening remarks from the UN Tourism and UNEP colleagues, and also some presentation from colleagues from Azerbaijan celebrating COP29 achievements. Later on, the session will be followed by a presentation from the colleagues from Dublin, linking city climate planning with tourism strategy. Later on, we will have a report release, which is a recent publication of UN Tourism, Supporting Climate Action Planning in Tourism Destination, a review of literature and tools for local authorities. And later on, we will have a very interesting, insightful panel discussion for supporting climate resilience tourism development. And at the end, the session will be followed by Q&A, and we would be happy to hear your questions. Just in order to ensure that we are having a smooth session, I would like to remind all of us a few housekeeping rules. Just please ensure that you are muted if you are not speaking. Also, just to know that who is today with us, we invite you to rename yourself. So put your name as name of your organization and then your own name so we know who is with us. You can post your question during the Q&A in the chat. And please also be informed that the session is being recorded right now. So if you have any objections or reservation, please let us know. So without any further ado, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Zorica Urusovic, the Executive Director of World Tourism Organization, UN Tourism, for her opening remarks. Dear Zorica, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Roxana. Thank you to everyone for joining. Dear colleagues and partners, it's a real pleasure to welcome you all in this Global Roundtable on Climate Action in Tourism. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to Azerbaijan and Karan Gazimov, who joins us today, and Brazil, for collaborating with us to organize this important discussion. And I also wish to thank UNEP, Jorge Laguna, for its invaluable support. Today, as we mark the UN Global Tourism Resilience Day, we are reminded of the urgency and the importance of our shared mission. Tourism is not only vulnerable to climate change, it must also be a force for climate action. At COP29, we reached a historic milestone. For the first time, tourism was officially included in the action agenda. This recognition is a testament to the growing understanding of our sector's role in the global response to climate change. Throughout the discussion in Baku, one message resonated across all interventions: resilience must be at the heart of tourism transformation. More than half of nationally determined contributions are already acknowledging tourism as a vulnerable sector. After COP29, we now see a stronger collective recognition that tourism is also part of the solution. This means two things. First, that we must actively work to build resilience for tourism businesses, of course, but most importantly, for the communities and destinations that depend on tourism. Second, that we must lead the transition to low-carbon business models and more sustainable behavior, embracing innovation and collaborative solutions. The good news is that we have strengthened framework for action. On the one hand, we have the COP29 Baku Declaration on Enhanced Climate Action in Tourism, which consolidates unprecedented high-level political commitment. We very much appreciate the efforts of the COP29 presidency and State Tourism Agency of Azerbaijan, which made this declaration a reality. On the other hand, we have the Glasgow Declaration Initiative, foundation of the Baku Declaration, implemented under the One Planet Sustainable Tourism Program with UNEP, and which is the tool for action and has already catalyzed the development of more than 380 climate action plans by tourism stakeholders. We must leverage on this strengthened framework to advance faster. It must serve the destinations that tourism operates in, the businesses that sustain local economies, and the millions of livelihoods that tourism supports worldwide. Because we need a people-centered transformation. The Global Roundtable today is an opportunity to take the next step. Resilience is a complex concept. It's about adaptation, mitigation, and transformation. It is about ensuring that tourism not only survives climate change, but helps lead the way towards a sustainable future. Let us use this moment to exchange ideas, share solutions, and pave the way to COP30. The momentum is there and the time to act is now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear Zoritza, for your inspiring remarks. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Jorge Laguna Celis, the head of One Planet Secretariat from the United Nations Environment Program. Dear Jorge, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues, dear friends of the UN World Tourism Organization. It is such a pleasure to be here today, and as Zoritza already mentioned, to not only celebrate but also use these important milestones to reflect on how we can build tourism resilience and how can we use this day in which we commemorate the importance, the centrality of global tourism resilience day to discuss climate action in tourism. First and foremost, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to UN Tourism, the Republic of Azerbaijan and Brazil for helping us organize this important discussion and for their continued leadership in advancing climate action in the tourism sector. UNEP, the organization I represent through the Secretariat of the One Planet Network, was honored to be a partner and supporter of the first ever Tourism Day at COP29. This was, and we will hear a little bit more in a few minutes, an important initiative led by the Azerbaijani presidency and UN Tourism. But this initiative is also built in the strong foundation of the United Nations Sustainable Tourism Program, which is part of the One Planet Network. Every action matters, distinguished colleagues. The urgency to increase ambition and action has never been greater. The period, as we all know, from February 2023 to January 2024, marked the first ever 12-month average exceeding 1.5 degrees compared to the pre-industrial levels. We know that monthly and annual breaches of 1.5 degrees do not mean that the world has failed to achieve the Paris Agreement temperature, but they only commit us to further action. It is a stark warning and it is a call for action by all stakeholders, whether representing industry, government, stakeholder organizations, or just individual citizens that want to do the right thing. While every fraction of degree matters in the fight against climate change, we know that tourism plays a crucial role in addressing climate change, nature loss, and pollution. As we heard from Zoritza and the analysis that UN Tourism has developed, the role of tourism in climate action is now widely recognized. One of the major achievements of COP29 was that 53% of NDCs now reference the centrality of the sector. Let's all remind NDCs are the national determined contributions, the climate plans and promises that countries make to tackle climate change. Of these, about two-thirds focus on adaptation, one-third includes mitigation measures. Let's take a small look about what is the importance for both adaptation and mitigation of the tourism sector. According to the latest research led by the Universities of Sydney, Queensland, Griffith, and Linnaeus, tourism-related greenhouse gas emissions in 2019 accounted for an estimated 8.8 degrees of percentage of global emissions. While transportation contributes to over 70% of tourism's emissions, and we know that from important research developed by UN Tourism along with its partners, this comes primarily from air and road travel, of course. Accommodation still holds responsibility for 21% due to energy used for heating, for cooling, for lighting, for the appliances that we use, and the water that we consume while we enjoy important our leisure activities and also our tourism destinations. So therefore here we have an opportunity for action. We know that the sector CO2 emissions will increase at least by 25% by 2030 if we don't do anything. So beyond direct emissions, we also know that the sector has important responsibility in the way we consume plastics, in the way it uses single-use plastics, in the way changing behaviors with regards to single-use plastics and other solid waste, and that also the tourism value chain particularly is dependent on the resiliency of our agricultural systems. So what is the opportunity to rethink tourism in a climate-friendly, nature-positive way? And this is precisely the initiative from Azerbaijan government that we commend for establishing the first tourism day at UNFCCC COP29. This day allowed us to reflect on the centrality of the sector, not only for mitigation in terms of the use and efficiency in terms of carbon from the tourism operations, to rethink the importance of having sustainable food systems that support the tourism operators and working together with destinations and local communities in enhancing the quality of the food that is served, how is it consumed, how is it reused, how is it recycled, right? And how can we bring along the sector also in refusing and reducing the amount of plastics that it's being used. So governments and national tourism authorities need to take decisive action by integrating tourism more effectively into national climate strategies, NDCs, and national adaptation plans. And I look forward to the discussions today that will help us identify clear pathways on how can we strengthen interministerial and cross-sectoral coordination in tourism policies. We also invite you to discuss how the Glasgow Declaration on Climate Action in Tourism can continue to be a framework that will go from strength to strength in building resiliency for the tourism sector. Finally, we know that tourism businesses have a responsibility to set ambitious net zero targets aligned with the Paris agreements, and with the UN system and academia, we can reinforce a science-based approach. And I commend all the scientists that are with us today. In essence and in closing, I would like to invite you to take the best of these discussions that we're having now in this time zone and in the afternoon today to help us advance our efforts in the context of the UN Sustainable Tourism Program of the One Planet Network, to help us reinforce the joint work that we undertake together with UN Tourism. And I would like to express, of course, as I already mentioned, deep appreciation to Azerbaijan's presidency for their leadership in developing and driving the Baku Declaration on Enhanced Climate Action in Tourism. We are convinced that the tourism sector must generate progress towards ambitious targets and work collectively to achieve net zero emissions by 2050 or sooner. The decisions we make today, the actions we identify today, and the pathways we discuss today will help us reach our goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Laguna Celis. It was very supportive for us to hear these words also from UNEP Secretariat. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Kenan Gazimov. Sir, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, distinguished colleagues, dear friends. Before starting my speech, I would like to thank UN Tourism, UNEP, on UN, of course, with Zorica for her leadership, for her passion, for her guidance, mainly in this very, very important way. And without her support, without her leadership, it would be not maybe possible. Dear guests, dear colleagues, it is always a pleasure for me to be here and deliver an opening remarks for this roundtable on climate action in tourism. gathering that brings together leaders from across the tourism sector to reflect on our collective progress and path forward. On this Global Tourism Resilience Day, we celebrate the significant progress made at COP29 in Baku, where the world reaffirmed its commitment to making tourism one of the key drivers of climate action. At COP29, we witnessed a historic moment with the adoption of the COP29 Declaration on Enhanced Climate Action in Tourism, a testament to the growing political will to advance climate resilient tourism development. Within 67 governments endorsing this declaration, we have set a strong foundation for integrating both mitigation and adaptation efforts in tourism. Moreover, we recognize the Glasgow Declaration initiative as a vital instrument in driving meaningful climate action in tourism. By signing the Glasgow Declaration at COP29, Azerbaijan reaffirmed its commitment to the advancing climate action in the sector. We have since embarked on the progress of developing our climate action plan, carefully studying best practices to ensure it's not only comprehensive, but also realistic, actionable, and impactful. We are eager to learn from the experiences of other destinations, particularly national tourism administrations, as we navigate this journey. While we acknowledge that only a few national tourism administrations have formally committed to the Glasgow Declaration, we are determined to lead by example, demonstrating that national tourism bodies can and should take an active role in shaping the sector's climate resilience. Our goal is to arrive at COP30 in Belém with a tangible progress in hand, inspiring others to follow suit and reinforcing the critical role of NTAs in driving this transformation. Azerbaijan remains committed to working alongside global partners to build tourism sector that thrives in harmony with our planet. I look forward to the discussions and the shared commitment to accelerating climate action in tourism. I would like to say that I'm very, very happy that all this tourism sector came together to discuss this climate issue, and together we are strong. Together we will able to find solutions, and we will be stronger in Belém, which started from Baku but will continue in Belém. And with your involvement, it will be really possible. We believe that, and your endorsement, your involvement to this process is very vital for all of us. Thank you. I wish good luck to the roundtable, and I'm sure that it will have a fruitful results. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kazimov, the head of administration, State Tourism Agency of the Republic of Azerbaijan, sir. It was an honor to have you today with us. Now I would like to give the floor to my colleague, Ms. Virginia Fernandez-Trapa. She is the program coordinator at Sustainable Tourism and Resilience Department of UN Tourism. Dear Virginia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Roxana, for giving me the floor, and good morning, everyone from Madrid. It's really great to be numerous. We appreciate very much your interest and willingness to contribute to this discussion. I really would like to join my colleague Roxana in thanking our executive director, Zorica Urošević, Jorge Laguna Celis from UNEP, and also Kanan Gasimov from the State Tourism Agency of Azerbaijan for their leadership to drive climate action in tourism forward. We have heard it in the opening remarks. We are now looking at a strengthened framework for climate action in tourism. I think we have a slide that represents it. And we must put this strengthened framework to good use. So we have the COP29 declaration, which consolidates the high-level political commitment. And we also have the Glasgow Declaration initiative as a tool for implementation. We have signatories on both of them, countries and all kinds of stakeholders. And we really need to put it to the service of climate resilient tourism development. Next, please. but what exactly is climate resilient tourism development, or what is climate resilient development besides a development that is resilient to climate? How do we unpack it? Actually, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change itself has defined it. You can see the definition on the screen. It's basically a solutions framework that successfully combines strategies to deal with climate risks, so adaptation, with actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, mitigation, and I guess the most important part, which result in improvements for nature's and people's well-being. So we're looking at reducing exposure and vulnerability. We're looking at conserving biodiversity. We're looking at cutting down emissions, but also at the complexity of navigating the interactions across them, right? Because we have adaptation measures that can lead to mitigation-related benefits. For example, think of mangrove restoration and its carbon capture, or water efficiency. We have mitigation actions that can also lead to adaptation-related benefits, like renewable energies or circular management of waste that can reduce the dependency on fossil fuels, or the landfill-related pollution. And I guess, as I said before, today one of our objectives is to try to unpack together this concept of climate resilience for tourism, so we can really start taking action. And therefore, we would like to take a minute to gather your views, everyone's views. So we're going to show a poll on the screen, and it would be great if you can choose maximum 3 replies each. Try not to cheat, so we can have a little bit of a prioritization, please. And we'd like you to tell us, what do you think are the 3 priority actions for climate resilient tourism development? As I said, don't tick everything, just 3. So you can undertake risk assessments, support local communities in extreme weather, develop flexible operations and itineraries, increase renewable energy supply, develop circular business models, implement nature-based solutions, strengthen local supply chains, and improve visitor awareness, ensure adaptation-related funding. I'm assuming people can vote already. Let me see. Can I
Yes,
vote
people are
myself?
voting, and
Okay,
I can
super.
see that the numbers are increasing. Thank you very much,
Okay,
colleagues.
fantastic.
Yeah.
This is a bit experimental for us, so let's see how it goes. Thank you so much, Roxana, for the support. I guess that maybe in 10 seconds, we can see what comes up.
If I may suggest, I would wait maybe 10 more seconds, because
Okay.
out of 110 participants, we have 77 answers. So we really encourage colleagues who have not answered to take their time and share their opinion, insights with us.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you for participating. I think we can close it, Roxana. We're a bit pressed with time. So let's see what comes up, what the colleagues think. Oh, interesting. So we see the highest scoring is relating to nature-based solutions, funding, improve visitor awareness, renewable energy supply, local communities 29%. Interesting. I wonder, is this what you were expecting? No. Keep your answers for discussion later, and also do not hesitate to start becoming active on the chat. Now let's continue. Our brains are activated, so let's keep those in mind when listening to our amazing speakers. We have an impressive lineup. Thank you to all for joining us, and I wish now to invite the colleagues from Dublin in Ireland to deliver their presentation on how they have been linking city planning, city climate planning, with tourism strategy. They are Dr. Sabrina Decker, Climate Action Coordinator, and Barry Rogers, Head of Dublin City Tourism Unit. Dear Sabrina and Barry, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roxana. Would you like us to share the slides or would you like to go through them?
We can
Yes, please,
try to
if
share.
you could
Yep.
share from your end, I think that would be more.
Perfect. Just bear with me one moment.
I've got it up there, Barry, I think.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sabrina. I'll let you kick off.
So good morning. Thank you to UN Tourism for the opportunity to present on how Dublin is linking climate action. As Virginia mentioned, I'm Sabrina Decker. I'm actually the Regional Climate Action Coordinator for the Dublin Metropolitan Climate Action Regional Office. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it represents the 4 Dublin local authorities. But we are going to speak to Dublin City Council. So together with my colleague Barry here, who is the head of tourism, we'll guide you through Dublin's journey linking climate action and tourism. So Barry, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. So thank you very much for having us today. And it's great to see so many people on the call. I would just like to say before we start that all of you are invited to Dublin in case I get the chance to not say it at this presentation. But just to clarify who we are as a destination and what you should know about Dublin City before you come and visit, you should know that we're an EU mission city. We're an EU adaptation mission. We also are a global green city as well. We are also, and for the purposes of this call, very proud to be the first Irish city to sign the Glasgow Declaration on Sustainable Tourism. We are also the first Irish city to undertake third-party GSTC destination certification as well. In terms of things you can do when you visit here, we also have a UNESCO City of Literature designation, and we are a UNESCO biosphere in the city as well. As well as that, last year, you might be aware that we were awarded the European Capital of Smart Tourism Award, which includes our work on sustainability. And then just a snapshot of us as a destination. We have 6.6 million international visitors every year, 1.8 million domestic visitors. And in terms of the ratio, which we are very grateful to UN Tourism to give us, we have 4 visitors to every 1 local to the city. And we are number 29 on the GDSI index as well. So that's just to give you a little snapshot of who we are as a destination and what you can expect when you come to Dublin to visit us. You can go on to the next slide. Thank you. So the whole purposes of this presentation is about linking climate action planning and tourism strategy. But the one thing I would love to get across here is that it's not just about tourism strategy. It's about all of the strategies of our city. Everything is linked to climate change and community development as well. So we work very closely with Sabrina to make sure that all of our strategies, whether it's the city development plan, the nighttime economy, the local economic and community plan, our food strategy, is all interlinked with climate planning as well. And what makes our tourism strategy a little bit different than traditional tourism strategies is, yes, it's linked to the Glasgow Declaration and the UN SDGs, but it also it doesn't prioritize kind of exponential economic growth, and it puts the local, the Dubliner, back into the center of why we do tourism as well. And it also is accountable towards our climate goals. So everything is interlinked. It's not just tourism strategy. All of our strategies across the city are linked in with climate action planning as well. And I'll hand over to Sabrina on the next slide to show you why that's so important.
So also, before you go, just to know what the local climate risks are. So as Barry had mentioned, all these plans are working together to respond to the climate risks facing Dublin, one of which is illustrated here. It's sea level rise very clearly. The red is what is modeled to be underwater at 1.5 degrees of warming by the end of the century. But this is not the only risk that we're experiencing. Currently, we're already experiencing increased storminess, higher wind speeds, increased rainfall intensity, drought, rising temperatures. And we know that these impacts will compound each other and have cascading impacts. And then, of course, there are the known unknowns that we're facing. So we are planning for a future with a changed climate by focusing on enhancing the co-benefits of climate action to human health, the environment, society, and the economy. And we also know that as temperatures rise, people will be seeking colder destinations in the summer. So we're really focused on ensuring that people can experience Dublin sustainably, and that is a priority for us. So back over to Barry.
Thank you very much, Sabrina. And just to note that tourism is obviously extremely important for Ireland's economy. It's about 4.5% of our GDP, and all of our major tourism destinations are are on the coast, all of our major cities. So just to chat about what you can experience when you come to Dublin, but specifically what we are doing as a city to emphasize and prioritize sustainability and sustainable experiences. So we have developed a couple of sustainable platforms where you can find out, I suppose, more curated sustainable information before you come to the city. So that includes a platform called Culture Near You, which is all about what locals like to do when they're in the city. We have also developed a project called Dear Dublin, which is a tourism sentiment, a local tourism sentiment tracker, which shows you how locals in Dublin feel about tourism to the city, and they give you recommendations on how they think you should visit before you come. And then we have Dublin.ie as well, our own website. Things to do that are sustainable when you're in the city, which we are supporting as a city, include things like local sea swimming, Dublin Maker Fair, and we have this wonderful coastal mobility route as well called the Dublin Coastal Trail, which links up the UNESCO biosphere as well. And then in terms of eating and things to see, there's the Dublin Green Guide, which we're currently working on. We have Eat the Streets Festival and the Spade Kitchen Social Enterprise Project. And then we also have the wonderful Phoenix Park, which is Europe's largest city park. We have the Bay Biosphere, which we mentioned. And we have a wonderful award-winning 14 Henrietta Street, which is the social community and history of the city in one building as well. So lots to do when you get here to Dublin, but just a snapshot of some of the things we are trying to prioritize as a city in terms of sustainability as well. Thanks, Sabrina.
Thanks, Barry. So how did we get here? So if you remember a few slides ago that we had a climate action plan in 29, it was the first one, and it started a conversation about climate action. However, we kind of recognized that we needed to embed climate action in everything that we do. And what Barry didn't mention is the tourism strategy came before, and he did actually hand the draft over to me, and I was really excited to see how succinct it was and how it actually incorporated everything and made you feel welcome. So that's something we held on to for the climate action plan. So tourism actually inspired our climate action plan a little bit more. You also might have noticed that we do really enjoy writing plans, but so writing is one thing, implementing very much is another thing. So our new climate plan, Climate Neutral Dublin 2030, is a response to the EU mission as well as national targets to achieve a reduction in 51% reduction in emission, but we're also striving for neutrality by 2030. It was adopted a year ago, and we're taking a bit of a different approach to implementation. So we've been working with the OECD to introduce a challenge-led approach to support systems innovation for climate action. And our first challenge is focused on children's movement through the city. And the decision to focus on children was made by senior managers with different responsibilities, one of whom recognized that if it's easy for children to move through the city, families visiting or anybody visiting will be able to move easily as well. So we're trying to actually bring a lens of a more holistic approach. The other piece that we're doing is we're using the art of storytelling, which is very much something you can experience when you come to Dublin, to support the OECD work as well. So we're working with Dublin Story Slam, who are helping us to build an archive of institutional memory for future generation of Dublin City Council staff, while also building relationships across the organization. We are celebrating staff successes and learning from perceived failures by using storytelling. Lastly, we're also changing the way we as an organization are thinking about biodiversity. Earlier, Barry mentioned the Dublin Bay UNESCO biosphere. It is very unique. In Ireland to date, funding for climate action has primarily focused on energy and transport, and little has gone to adaptation, specifically nature-based solutions. So through having a biodiversity artist in residence, we're working towards embedding biodiversity into all of our work and drawing attention to the need to focus on biodiversity for our future. The first artist, Rosie O'Reilly, has completed her work, Awin, and it is a love letter to Dublin's rivers, which you can experience on the Dublin Discovery Trails apps, and that's courtesy of Barry for actually putting that app there. So when you come to Dublin, we encourage you to use that app and learn about the history of our rivers and how much they've defined the city. So my hope with all of these things that we're doing is that through each of these approaches, we can understand that climate action is about quality of life and improving our health and well-being, and that we gain from taking climate action. So this isn't easy. And I'd like to just say, I think we're talking about tourism, and I think we can think that no family vacation is easy. However, I've learned from a lot of family vacations that, especially with older families, ironically, that good snacks and stationery are key to keeping the peace. And in this context, it's more about starting conversations and helping us to build that. So our challenge-led approach is about bringing people together with diverse perspectives and experiences and asking them to consider questions together. So when we started developing the climate action plan, we actually invited all the staff into into workshops, and we asked them to share their visions for the city. And it was powerful because everybody started to realize that they weren't that different despite their expertise. And we started to create a vision that really expresses that Dublin is for everybody. The other thing that we've been doing is we really encourage people to innovate and try and fail again and try. It's very important, especially failures and understanding what went wrong is critical. One thing that I did to kind of demonstrate that is I asked people what went wrong with the first plan, and I was told it was a laundry list of actions and that it lacked strategy. So we really tried to bring strategy back into the plan and actually tell a cohesive story. So finally, the last thing I would say, if somebody's bringing on this journey to embed climate action and tourism together, is narratives are important. Finding what brings people together. And laundry lists don't do that, but the idea of home. So home is the narrative that runs through the climate action plan, as well as kind of the tourism strategy as well. So we're taking pride in our city and our home. So back to you, Barry.
Thank you, Sabrina. This is our final slide. And just to say thank you so much to everyone, a big Gurv Milamagav from Dublin. And just to say that our vision is one where all of these plans are not separate identities, but one where we are working together. And we're very lucky that Sabrina and I work together across our tourism strategy, and she double checks everything that I'm working on in terms of climate action, which is extremely valuable. But the vision for the city in terms of climate action, the vision for our citizens and tourism is the same vision. It's one where Dubliners and visitors can experience built-in natural history, sitting in College Green in the city, under the shade of a native tree, enjoying a meal made locally sourced, seasonal ingredients, and you can strike up a conversation with a local at a neighboring table and enjoy the buzz and the crack of the city. So with that, I'd like to close our presentation and just thank everyone here for their inspiration, for the role they've played in the development of our tourism strategy and all of our climate action planning. And to say, yeah, hope to see you in Dublin, and you're more than welcome to come visit. Thank you so much, Gurv Milamagav.
Thank you so much, both of you, Sabrina and Barry. It's really a pleasure to listen to you speak in such a synergy. I think we all learned a lot. As we are rushing a bit with time, I'd like to encourage colleagues, if they have questions for Sabrina and Barry, to engage in a constructive debate on the chat while we advance. And I would now like to invite Dr. Dirk Lesser, the Director of Sustainable Tourism and Resilience Department, to share with us a few words about a review of literature and tools for climate action planning by local authorities. Dirk, the floor is yours for this announcement.
Thank you, Virginia, very much for the opportunity to explain some of the background thoughts which led to the launch of this publication here today on the occasion of the Day on Tourism Resilience. As you all know and just witnessed, planning is one of the very important elements of climate action and tourism. Together with measurement, planning allows us to develop our next steps into the right direction and to trigger hopefully desired progress. Measurement was supported through our publication 2 years ago, an overview on methodologies and tools to measure greenhouse gas emissions, launched at ITB 2 years ago. Today, we present the effort, which was building mainly on adaptation, on destination-focused literature on planning. However, we think that the identified elements in this planning literature and the review we did will be useful for destinations developing their own climate action plans and allow that to link it into their own existing plans, or develop climate action plans and link them to sustainability or resilience. Important is, like with all the other plans, and Barry just mentioned that, not to copy plans, but rather seeking an inspiration from the experiences which were made by others who underwent already planning efforts, and take confirmation of own approaches and avoid especially making mistakes. While climate action plans can be standalone plans, the efforts should normally be integrated into the wider planning efforts at destination level, integrating the different stakeholders of the tourism sector and including it then in tourism strategies or focusing it and city, destination, or regional development processes and including it into destination strategies. Advancing through well-planned and reflected approaches allows us to review regularly the improvement we have made, allows for other stakeholders which were aligned before with the efforts to continue being aligned, and others who were not involved to see the joint objectives. It allows for transparency and thus builds trust. Destinations which are achieving that trigger processes which are ongoing and ultimately lead to a resilient development in tourism and beyond the tourism sector. I hope this publication will all of you be of use, and we are very happy to receive any feedback you might have on that launch today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dirk, for sharing with us about this new resource and for your useful reflections. It's now time to start the panel, colleagues. I am very happy to be joined by Jeremy Smith, independent climate expert, as co-moderator of this exchange. We're going to need to be very disciplined with time. I'm sorry, I'm a bit redundant on this point, but we are numerous. It's always great to hear from views from different parts of the world. And in our lineup today, we have Gunay Baraimova. She's the head of Division of Tourism Policy and Strategy in the State Tourism Agency of Azerbaijan. We also have Gwen Rice. She's a strategy lead in Visit Scotland. We have Flora Leroy, the Senior EU Programs Officer at the Conference of Peripheral Maritime Regions. We also have Judy Kefergona and Dominique Wanjiru, Director and Climate Action Officer, respectively, from Sustainable Travel and Tourism Africa. Alexandra Michat, Director of Sustainability of EXO Travel, and Ruth Franklin, co-founder and director, Secret Paradise Maldives. The title of our panel is Supporting Climate Resilient Tourism Development. And of course, we have anchored the discussion on the climate plans of the colleagues as they are all signatories of the Glasgow Declaration Initiative. Over to you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Virginia, and thank you everyone for being here. We're going to start with speaking with Gwen from Visit Scotland. It makes sense, as Visit Scotland, not just a signatory of the Glasgow Declaration, but involved as co-author and first NTO. Let's look at this combination of resilience and decarbonisation. How is Visit Scotland supporting your tourism sector to deliver on its destination net zero ambition of 2045? And at the same time, how are you not just focusing on decarbonisation, but supporting and influencing the sector to become more resilient to the challenges of climate change?
Thank you, Jeremy, and hello everyone, and thank you for inviting Visit Scotland to speak today. As you probably know, Visit Scotland is a national tourism organisation for Scotland, and we see ourselves as driving economic growth for the visitor economy. We look at market development, where we're getting our visitors from, business and experience development, obviously matching those products to what visitors are looking for, but importantly, place and community development too. We can't regulate, but instead we aim to lead by example across a number of areas, influencing tourism policy and leadership, our own internal practices, travel intermediaries, tourism and events businesses, and educating visitors. So firstly, looking at the strategic level, Scotland Outlook 2030 was a national tourism strategy launched 4 years ago and developed jointly with Visit Scotland, Scottish tourism industry represented by Scottish Tourism Alliance, Enterprise Agency, Skills Development Scotland and Scottish Government. So really people working in collaboration to look at how we can work together to contribute to the Scottish Government's climate change legislation, which has set a target date for net zero emissions of all greenhouse gases by 2045. So we look at collective ownership, insights and measurement, net zero advice and toolkits for tourism and events businesses, supporting net zero tourism products, itineraries and supply chains, visitor engagement and communication, and obviously collaboration. So where are we on our journey at Visit Scotland to Destination Net Zero? Well, we need to take action on the issues within our control. And in May 23, we published our latest Destination Net Zero Climate Action Plan, covering an initial period of 3 years. And in it, we set out our ambition to lead by example through our own internal sustainability practices and 3 key areas externally where we can accelerate change. Looking at Scottish tourism and events businesses, giving them tools and advice to help them meet their net zero targets and create products and experiences that are sustainable. Destinations and communities to understand the impacts of tourism, ensure the benefits of industry are wide-reaching and positive for all, ensuring we get the right growth in the right areas at the right time of year. And visitors, through our marketing activity and with our intermediaries, aiming to inspire, educate and inform our visitors how to make responsible choices at the planning stage and once they arrive in destination. So research we carried out showed that businesses at that time in 21 were 10% were measuring their carbon footprint and 30% were developing climate action plans. They were motivated to take action, but it wasn't top of their priority lists as they struggled to recover from the pandemic and ongoing cost of living crises. So we've taken action to change the dialogue on climate change and help businesses take those first steps. So we've launched and revised our tourism-specific climate action impact guide and workbook, which is available to all on our website, visitscotland.org. It's designed to support businesses in the early stages of their climate action journey. And we know that we need to reduce the jargon and make it easy for people. So it has a number of steps. Firstly, identifying carbon emissions, how to measure those carbon emissions, and then how to reduce them, how to adapt to climate change, supporting nature-based solutions to climate change, and then communicating and collaborating on that change. Looking at destinations, we know that every destination is different, from our major cities, Glasgow and Edinburgh, to very rural and island communities across Scotland. So we created a pilot project with the Travel Foundation to work with 3 very different destinations in Scotland: Glasgow, Visit Inverness, Loch Ness, and the Outer Hebrides. They worked with us, received one-to-one support to create a destination climate action plan and building carbon literacy at a destination level. So they have the tools and knowledge to support their businesses, which has been a success. We've shared learnings and now we're rolling out and working with other destinations across the country. And then finally, educating visitors. We know there's increasing awareness amongst visitors, but price continues to be a major driver. So it's encouraging visitors out of the peak season to build resilience for communities and businesses. And our recent winter activity showcased the beauty of Scotland during the winter and reasons to visit different regions that are ready to welcome visitors all year round. We've also done a lot of work with tourism businesses, helping them to develop products and experiences that are of interest to the travel trade for sale through tour operators and travel advisors that benefit the local community and provide economic sustainability. So to sum up for now, collaboration is key. We're all learning from each other, and it's important that we influence at different levels. It's about acting now and moving it up everyone's priority list so we build resilience and take meaningful action.
Thank you so much, Gwen. Many thanks. It's really great to have Visit Scotland as one of the founding signatories of Glasgow Declaration and to witness how you're making progress, how you're acting as a multiplier. Let me now turn to one of our newest signatories, the State Tourism Agency of Azerbaijan, which, as Mr. Gasimov mentioned, became a signatory at COP29. Dear Gunay, Azerbaijan is in early stages of climate action planning in tourism. What steps are you taking? Are you finding barriers? How are you planning to address the barriers? Can you update us, please?
Hello, thank you, Virginia, and thank you for all the interesting discussions that's taking place today here. It's a pleasure to be part of this important discussion, especially as we reflect on the progress made during COP29 and look ahead to the work that still needs to be done. You rightly mentioned Azerbaijan is in a very early stage of taking climate action in tourism. And however, so far we have identified the three key challenges that I want to stress today. The first one is limited technical expertise and data. So it's not just tourism businesses or local communities, also policymakers themselves lack technical expertise and knowledge of how to integrate climate action into their daily operations. And most importantly, I would say it's the global challenge as well. It's lack of precise data on tourism's climate footprint. So as a solution, I would say we need to focus on building local expertise through training programs and also leveraging partnerships to adopt and apply the existing international measurement frameworks. This was actually one of the reasons why, in partnership with UN Tourism, we set measurement as one of the important topics for technical discussions. And the second one, I would say, low awareness among tourism stakeholders. So many businesses in Azerbaijan have very limited understanding and awareness of climate action and sustainability as a whole. So, and it's seen as a trend, not a necessity, and also there's some fear that it could hurt profitability because it requires them to invest in technology and to make some changes to their daily business operations. As a solution, I believe we need to shift the conversation from burdens to benefits and showcase the benefits like cost savings, efficiency gains, and also longer-term competitiveness in the region, also maybe globally. And the third one, I would say, institutional coordination gaps is one of the biggest challenges because climate action requires cooperation across multiple ministries and industrial players, and in tourism we have lots of them. So we need to align efforts, ensuring policies are coherent, practical, and enforceable. One of the kind of actions that we have already taken this year is to include several sustainability activities into the government working group action plan for 2025, and we took those sustainability activities from the international methodology, and we hope and believe that it will also help trigger climate action in tourism in Azerbaijan. So I believe addressing these fundamental gaps will allow Azerbaijan to build a solid, action-oriented climate strategy rather than rushing into broad commitments without a clear path forward. This is very important, and it's also my pleasure to be here and listen to the actions and policies other destinations are taking, and also to learn from their experience and apply them successfully. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gunay. Really very inspiring to see how the State Tourism Agency is leveraging on the legacy of COP29 to revisit tourism strategies. So of course you can count on our support. It's a pleasure to work with you. Let me now turn to Flora Leroy. She's from the Conference of Peripheral Maritime Regions. You represent maritime regions that are primarily located in Europe, if I'm not mistaken, so Mediterranean, Black Sea, Atlantic. And we know maritime regions, tourism and climate change are quite interconnected, given the reliance of these regions on coastal tourism and its high vulnerability to climate impacts. In your climate action plan, as a Glasgow Declaration signatory, you actually refer to the tourism ecosystem rather than the tourism sector. What do you mean by this, and how is connected to resilience building?
Thank you, Virginia, and thank you very much for having us today with you. Well, to begin, I think that it's important to highlight, and you highlighted it, but that the CPMR is an organization of 150 regions across 24 countries, and we are promoting balanced development and cohesion in Europe. So our work spans several key policy areas, including cohesion, maritime affairs, transport, climate and energy, migration, and sustainable tourism. So the CPMR engages in advocacy, exchanges of best practices, joint projects, conferences, capacity building, and much more. So we do not solely focus on tourism. And since signing the Glasgow Declaration in 2021 and approving its climate action plan in 2023, the CPMR has been addressing climate action in tourism through a holistic approach. So we consider indeed tourism as an interconnected ecosystem that involves other key sectors or thematic areas such as biodiversity, transport, energy, and so on, and aligns with broader EU policy frameworks on climate change adaptation and mitigation, such as the Green Deal, the Climate Law, Fit for 55 package, and the new European strategy on adaptation to climate change. So taking a holistic approach to climate action allows for deeper understanding of the links between tourism, natural resources, infrastructure, and local communities, of course. So by integrating multiple sectors, such as energy and transport, for instance, regions can develop coordinated solutions that not only enhance the resilience of the tourism sector, but also contribute to the overall sustainability of their territories. So this ensures that tourism is a long-term driver of sustainable development, fully aligned with EU climate policies and broader regional strategies. Just to give you an example of the current work of the climate working group of the CPMR, we are currently working on blue and green carbon sinks. So as you know, coastal ecosystems such as mangroves and wetlands act as natural CO2 absorbers, helping mitigating climate change. So protecting and restoring these ecosystems strengthens climate resilience while keeping tourism a driver of sustainable development. Also, as part of the transport working group of the CPMR, we are working on green transportation, in particular on hydrogen in touristic regions such as Crete or Balearic Island. Thank you.
Thank you. Staying with the sort of focus on islands, but other than that, changing it very much. We've listened to two national tourism organizations and to a organization, CPMR, that works multinationally in many different regions. We're going to turn now to Ruth Franklin from Secret Paradise, a tour operator that works in one set of islands in the Maldives. Ruth, when the Maldives government developed its climate action plan for tourism, you and Secret Paradise were engaged in the process and played a role in consulting and supporting that. You also now have your own climate action plan for the tour operator. The national plan has a great focus on vulnerability, the need for adaptation for the country and the tourism sector to the challenges of climate change. How, developing a tour operator's plan, do you connect to the national aims?
Hi, Jeremy. Thank you for that question. You're quite right. We were very fortunate to be one of the tourism stakeholders that was part of the initial process of looking at what needed to be done, what our thought processes were, and really getting down to the nitty-gritty of what changes may need to come about in the Maldives, as well as the end result of giving feedback before publication. So once the Maldives had launched its climate tourism action plan, it seemed quite right that we in turn launched ours. So we're into the second year now of our actions. Secret Paradise is a tour company that has focused on engaging travellers with local communities, NGOs and the environment since 2012. And so there's many aspects of our business that already integrated with the actions that were on the Maldives Climate Action Plan. Two that spring to mind would be combining local initiatives with products and restoring, managing and protecting ecosystems. So within our tour company, we have developed three communities. We have our traveller community, we have a local island community, and we also then have our supplier community. So as we developed our action plan, we looked at how we would impact each of those communities also. So taking the traveller side first, we've always very actively educated our travellers, either prior to travel or in destination, on how to travel and taking into account energy and resource management, how to protect the environment and so on. And so we've just doubled down on that educational piece. We launched an education hub on our website, which was almost a one-stop web page that brings together resources, online training and information in relation to marine life, coral reefs, seagrass, mangroves, and the general biodiversity of the Maldives and how travellers can follow code of conduct. We also launched a traveller responsible tourism pledge, which gives 8 very straightforward key actions that we encourage our travellers to follow during their visit to the Maldives, and hopefully that they'll take those learnings with them when they travel to other destinations. We introduced into our tours the opportunity on all tours to either visit a seagrass bed or mangroves. And through hands-on experiences, through conversation with our tour leaders, and through general observation, there's a connection with climate action and the impact the climate change has in terms of our destination. And so it's about bringing that storytelling piece into the tour. So it's not just a presentation, it's not just an educational classroom, but there's a connection where the tour leader is perhaps sharing their own experiences of the changes that they've seen in their lifetime with their guests as they're touring local islands or they're snorkeling the coral reefs. From a community point of view, we spent time last year developing a tour guide training program that was intended not just to highlight operational best practice, but also focused on environment protection and sharing responsible tourism practice with guests. So we had a very successful pilot program with 2 of our suppliers in October last year, and going forward in our low season, we will run this in other islands to not only enhance the guest experience, but also offer resilience for communities who perhaps have youth that want to move into the tourism industry. And then as a tour company, we obviously have a supply chain. And one of the key things for us is about ensuring that we're working with our supply partners, particularly accommodation providers, to make changes with them and not being demanding of this is what we want you to do, but how can we help you achieve this? So we conducted a stake in the ground last year to ascertain where they were in terms of energy management, waste management, food sourcing and food waste. And this year the focus will be on utilising that knowledge to really help them on their journey in terms of measuring, collecting data and being able to review to make changes in the future.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Very important work you're undertaking, and very interesting to learn about the community involvement in local islands in the Maldives where the communities reside. I'll now move to Exo Travel. Alexandra, supporting local communities is also part of Exo Travel's DNA, if you allow me to say it that way. And your climate plan is anchored on measurement. And we know that the largest part of Exo's footprint are, of course, supply chain emissions. But what initiatives do you have in place, with your suppliers that intersect decarbonization, community support, and resilient building? How are you approaching this intersection?
Yes, thank you, Virginia. Hi to everyone. Indeed, we realized when measuring and working on our climate action plan, following our joining the Glasgow Declaration, that we really need to focus on our suppliers that comes from the local community and work with them to achieve any reduction target. So we of course work on sourcing alternative mode of transport. It varies from electric tuk-tuk, solar power boat, any alternative that we can find in our destination and that we can promote. Of course, promoting more slow travel, staying longer in a destination also has a big impact on carbon emissions. So this is a discussion we try to have with our clients. We're not a decision maker, unfortunately, on everything, but this is our role. So there are also countries that have done amazing work into developing train routes, or again, mode of transportation that are way more carbon efficient than others. So we try to include that in our programs. But we recognize that this still represents a very small fraction of our total supply chain. So we wanted to address that, and we have taken a proactive step to work with our supplier and to help them to transition to more renewable solutions. So in order to do that, we simply set up a fund of microloans or non-returnable grants, depending on their size and their legal status, to help them to have access to financing, because most of our suppliers within the communities, they have needs that can be fulfilled without huge amount of money on the table. We are talking about changing engine in a boat, about adding some solar panels, about solutions that are accessible in the destination and that can be affordable if they have a little support. So, so through the Reset Tourism Fund, we are working with supplier, but it's not only, you don't only declare a fund or communicate on a fund, you really need to work on the ground with supplier to understand their constraint as well and help them to find solution, because at this level, you really need to work out with them solutions that are can be implemented in their own context. So, so we try to work more, of course, on sensitive areas such as national parks, rivers, and urban centers that are significantly affected by air pollution. So as a focus. And beyond transportation and this fund, we are also we've also invested in innovative solution. For example, waste to energy. In Indonesia, we support a local project led by a small cruise company called Nomad Archipelago, and are working with communities to collect plastic waste, and they work to transform this waste into fuel that will also benefit to the local fishermen that need fuel for their boat. So trying to work on solutions that are small scale, but that we hope that will be an example and can be piloted and used and replicated in other destinations. We also work around providing guidance, training, and most importantly, recognition to what is being done by the community that we are working with. So we partner, for example, with TITA in Thailand to measure emissions from our tours and to deliver training specifically to the suppliers that are operating these tours, and to see how they can reduce their carbon footprint by simple actions such as changing items on the menu, different access to the venue, creating projects to capture emission directly on the locations. And every year we organize what we call the Sustainability Awards, where we reward suppliers that are taking concrete action. So it's through, we reward them with marketing benefits, communication, exposure, and with a relevant price like GSTC training for free, or access to a tool, something that is meaningful and that will help overall us to achieve our objective. And as Flora said earlier, we try to have a very holistic approach. So we also actively support projects that improve community resilience and access to clean water, access to renewable energy in remote areas, and improve cook stoves in Laos to reduce reliance on traditional, on wood. Yes, and by integrating those decarbonization efforts with community resilience initiative, we really want to drive a meaningful change and ensure that local communities can benefit directly from more sustainable tourism practices.
Thank you, Alexandra. It's from hearing all the answers that this focus on the need to work together, the supply chain and the collaboration is essential to building resilience. We can't build resilience alone. Let's turn now to Judy Kefagona and Dominic Wanjiru from Sustainable Travel and Tourism Africa. I don't know which one of you is going to answer, but sorry, Judy and Dominic. Your climate action plan outlines the objective to reinforce our dedication of tourism resilience. And I know from following the work that you've been doing the last few years, just how closely you work to support small businesses in Kenya. I'd love to know a bit more, how are you really helping these small businesses through the work that you do with resilience, with climate proofing their operations and the challenges they face?
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you to UNWTO and partners for giving us the opportunity to be here and share the work that we do in supporting micro, small, and medium enterprises in tourism. That is the space in which we operate. I want to start by saying that our actions are aligned to SDG 13, target 13.3, that talks about improving education, awareness raising, and human and institutional capacity on climate action, mitigation, adaptation, impact reduction, and warning. This is what has informed the work that we do in supporting micro, small, and medium enterprises. And so our support is aimed at creating a supportive ecosystem for micro, small, and medium enterprises to respond to climate, what we call climate realities. And I have heard at the beginning of this session that the climate realities is not just about responding to the vulnerabilities of climate change, but also becoming a force for action for climate, a force for climate action. And that is what we do with the micro, small, and medium enterprises. Our approach is on education and training. And towards that, we have developed various training modules. Holistically, the training modules capture all elements of sustainability, but in each one of them, we have an element or a section that specifically deals with the climate realities and what small businesses can do, creating awareness, understanding. We start from the very basics of introduction to the terminologies, introduction to the global actions, and bring it down to the realities of how their specific businesses can contribute to climate change. So education and training is big for us. We have several modules in sustainable development of tourism, from getting started with sustainable tourism to our newly created unit on sustainable leadership, sustainable tourism leadership for sustainability leaders in these small organizations. We are helping them to have leaders within the resources that they have without employing somebody exclusively to take this action, because we know that one of their biggest challenges for even paying attention to climate action is the size for the micro, small, and medium enterprises, and the resource and capacity to have a full-time person dedicated to doing this does not just make economic sense to most of them. And so we have to create opportunity for them to work with what they have. And so in our introduction of our sustainability leadership course, we are actually training people within the organization, and not just one person, maybe across departments, that they have different competencies in how to measure, because it's very important that we have tools and we have data and we can measure, we are accountable, which means we can report. So these things are very important for us, that they know the right tools to use, they know what data they are tracking, they have a system of monitoring and evaluating, and last but not least, they're accountable by reporting. So this is what the education and training approach does. Then, of course, we have advocacy and awareness. This is we have found out that not many of the small businesses participate in the public spaces, whether they are free or they are paid for, where climate is discussed. I was going through this, the participants in this, and we had extensively shared this in our platforms, and I'd hoped that we would see many more people from the continent and the businesses participating. But again, we're in a forum like this, and I have counted the number of organizations coming out of the continent, Africa, and even just trying to look at the small businesses that are here. So advocacy and awareness continues to be a big part of our work, because the knowledge needs to get down to where the people are. And our best example of this is that since 2022, we picked up on the Glasgow Declaration and made it our business that we are going to, at most our annual conference, we are going to have a Glasgow Declaration desk. And today we can say that at least 29 companies signed up the Glasgow Declaration through our initiatives. 14 of them are already listed. The others are in different stages, but at least 29 out of this climate awareness. We also have been producing small climate videos. We call them climate videos. Our YouTube channel is not as huge, but there are 44 small 5-minute or 2-minute videos that we have created since 2023 to just inform and educate the industry how the different actions in travel and tourism relates to climate change and how they contribute to climate. So those 44 videos, we continuously share them in various platforms, and by them being on that channel, they can educate. What we find more interesting is that academic institutions looking at tourism curriculum in Kenya today are using them more than anyone else. They're interested in those videos for their students to understand the linkages that are there. We also, in 2024, remember I said that data tools and data accountability are very important in our approach. So in 2024, we developed and launched an SME climate action toolkit to help SMEs to understand just even the process of developing a climate action plan. Because we found out that in a destination like Kenya, for example, there wasn't one company that had a complete climate action plan. And we are talking 2025, and we're edging towards the 2030, the year of accountability, and you're seeing that very few companies have done this. So we launched this in 2024. We have already reached out to at least 40 companies, issued 40 copies. We are in the process of onboarding, but we're looking for partnerships and collaborations to accelerate this so that we can reach as many more tourism businesses. I've said we are also helping learning institutions. We have contributed to review of curriculums to include tourism, climate awareness, even in hospitality training. We are talking to chefs, we are talking to training finance managers, we are training housekeepers in training institutions so that they can review. I'm talking about training instructors in tourism institutions to review curriculum so that it becomes not an add-on after graduation, but that they are aware and they will integrate this in their day-to-day action. For example, we have been talking to chefs in training institutions, and we are amazed that they have not heard about food miles. They're not aware that the food comes with carbon. They're interested in how to present that food. So that awareness and this institutional support with review of curriculum, we believe that it is one of the greatest impacts ever that we are going to have, because we are those who are going to work in the industry leave institutions already having the awareness that they need and the knowledge that they need, the tools that they need. They know how to measure impact. And as they do their planning, they will be planning with climate already in mind. In 2023, we are also very excited to lead by example, that we did our own climate action plan, because we became signatories of the Glasgow Declaration in 2022. And now we have done our climate action plan, and we are actually using it as an example to show businesses that this is what a climate action plan can be done with the resources that you have. It's not such a daunting task. It just requires a little dedication in capturing the data that we have. And we are, of course, guided by the 5 pathways of the Glasgow Declaration. We created a very basic table for us that just gives us things like, what is our objective, for example, when we talk about pathway. Sorry about that.
Thank you. No, so it's really, really exciting to hear you talk. We're reaching the hour, so I need to make an announcement. Thank you so much for being such a great ambassador of the Glasgow Declaration Initiative in Kenya, and for all the work you do. Really, it's very impressive. I think that there are many connected today here joining me in this thinking. So we're reaching the hour. Certainly, we did not plan very well our time keeping, so I want to start asking some favors. Favor for everybody. Can you stay with us a little longer? Both speakers, obviously most important, we certainly need you, and the audience. We plan to wrap up maybe at 11:15, if that's okay, meaning in 25 minutes from now. If you can stay, that would be amazing. We could do a quick second round of wrapping up thoughts, and then I'd like to encourage you to start posting some questions on the chat, so that whenever we reach the end, those questions are already there and we can swiftly read a few of them. If that is okay for everyone, I just want to turn to Wen really quick, Wen, 2 minutes max. I mean, we've heard it in the intro from Executive Director Urošević, that climate resilient development encompasses both adaptation and mitigation and obviously measurement. Judy has mentioned it, Alexandra mentioned it. You have a project ongoing with the Travel Corporation that focuses on decarbonization. Can you give us just a few hints about it? Thank you.
Yeah, so in 2 minutes, I'd planned a little bit longer, but that's fine. So the work we're doing with the Travel Corporation in association with the Travel Foundation is really looking at how we can decarbonize the supply chain. So Travel Corporation is a huge tour operator with multiple brands bringing visitors into Scotland. So if they are asking businesses for their climate action plans, it really gives us leverage to encourage those businesses to start the journey, because there's a commercial imperative to that. And we see that's really making a difference. So it's been working across all the teams at the Travel Corporation. So we've got the sustainability manager that we work really closely with. We introduce some of the sustainable experiences that we've developed with the local communities, make them aware of those, and they have actually taken some of them on to make travel matter experiences as well. It's working with the program developers, so we educate them about the areas of Scotland where there are visitor management issues and encourage them to take their visitors to other parts of Scotland where there is capacity. It's working with the hotel and experience contractors to introduce them to the businesses that have capacity to support. And it's also working with the marketing teams to introduce the sustainability and that desire, drive that demand to visit different areas of Scotland. So it's really working across all of the teams. And in year one, it was small steps. It was about slowing down rather than the itineraries having a single night in every location. It was about introducing 2-night stays, introducing some of those immersive experiences. Year two, we're able to do a little bit more because of the contracting, that wasn't all in place. So we were able to introduce some new experiences, go to different parts of the country. In year three, with the Luxury Gold brand, we're actually building from scratch. We're building from the bottom up. And there we're really able to implement some of the key changes that we're looking to make to decarbonise. So I would say it's working across every sphere, again, that collaboration, that education, and really trying to make a difference in terms of introducing those communities and experiences that are going to give a better visitor experience, and also extending the season and encouraging people to visit outside of the peak times. So that was a very whistle-stop answer. Hopefully that's okay.
That was great, Gwen. Thank you very much for setting the template for how we focus in now in this last sort of 15 minutes or so. Alexandra from EXO, moving on to you. You likewise shared several examples earlier of how you were supporting with transport providers. I wonder, could you briefly maybe focus in on one example of how you are working with hotels? Let's bring those into the conversation.
Yes, thank you. Indeed, hotels are very important suppliers for us. They represent a huge chunk in our carbon emissions. So what we want is of course, raise understanding and knowledge on climate risk, especially in our region that are very prone to climate risk. So we worked on a project called Hotel Resilient, which is a platform where hotels can log in and they can, based on their location, can get all the detail of the climate risks that they are facing and crisis management plans and guidance that they can follow around that. This tool is also coupled with a sustainability assessment because they go hand in hand and cannot be resilient without having sustainability practices. So we also encourage them to answer to an assessment on sustainability that gives them a score, and we can evaluate their practices and see whether we want to promote them as a responsible option to our client. And we've been working on this project for years now, and it's live, it's working. We have many hotels on the platform, and what I find extremely interesting also with this project is that it's a collaborative platform. So the data that is collected here can be shared so to operator, travel agents, other destination management companies, and once the hotel has completed it, it's on the platform and it becomes available for others to have access. So that gives really a transparent and consistent data on sustainability, which is core to achieving the action plan. So yeah, that's the main example I'd like to focus on. Thank you, Jeremy, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Alexandra. It's inspiring. We keep hearing education popping up, the importance of education and collaboration. Ruth, I'm turning to you now because you were sharing a bit about the importance of raising awareness of the locals, of the tourists. So are you involved in any other education projects that you wish to mention really quickly?
Unsurprisingly, yes, we are. We, in collaboration with 2 NGOs, launched an educational tour last year that's specifically designed for international students and schools. And then at a local level, we introduced a day tour that we can offer to both tourists and domestic travellers. The first of those was a fish ID snorkeling tour. So guests go out and are measuring the number of keystone-specific fish in specific locations so we can monitor changes in marine life, and then a visit to an island where there are mangroves. So through exploration and discussion, they understand how important these ecosystems are to the Maldives. And then, as others have said, particularly Judy, in terms of as a small business, we have to ensure that our team are fully aware and have the right knowledge and the right tools in order to be able to put things into action and convey and educate both our suppliers and our travellers. And so we've worked with a number of free online resources from IUCN, Sunex Malta. I'll now be checking out Judy's YouTube videos that she mentioned. So it is almost, ensuring that we are using what's out there because we're not a business that can recreate our own. So not using rocket science, but just utilising what's out there to ensure that the team are climate literate.
Thanks, Ruth, and great that you just mentioned Judy, because we'll go straight back to you, Judy, and ask you, you mentioned how you're working with the youth, and of course, the young generations are going to feel the brunt of this more than any of us. What are you doing working with the youth for building awareness in the communities and tourism destinations that you work with?
Thank you for that question. I will allow my colleague Dominic, who represents the youth and was part of our youth program, to give us an overview of our work with the youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy, and everyone. Good afternoon. I'm going to mention that we have a very, very innovative program for the youth. It's called the Young Change Makers Program, which started in the year 2017. And all of us know that that was the International Year for Sustainable Tourism for Development. So we started with that initiative so that we can inculcate critical thinkers in sustainable tourism and also to spur innovation in that. And through that space, we have different areas in which we engage the youth in the areas of climate change and even sustainability as a whole. First of all, we have 20 plus partners. Those are universities and TVETs, that we've engaged in Kenya, and we're also seeking to expand within the region. And through that, we organize seminars that touch on sustainability and even climate change. And we make sure that at the end of the year, because we normally have 10 seminars in a year, we can have four seminars where the topic discusses climate change. So through that, we've been able to get a wider reach, because at the end of the year, we tentatively we get 1,500 students at the end of the year that we reach to in terms of this discussion. We also have a engaged student in sustainability assessments, where they go to destinations and tell us how climate change is affecting those destinations. And they post that on our website, which is called utalibora.wordpress.com. So through that website, students assess destinations that are coming up, and they are even given recommendations on how those destinations can be in a good position even to create resilient systems within those destinations. And then we also have online discussions which happen on X, formerly Twitter, and we invite everyone to give their views, especially those that are in the area of tourism, the wildlife conservation, and all those other related sectors. We invite them to come to that discussion and even to tell us how climate change affects them. So that's one of the platforms that we invite people, and especially the youth, voice how climate change affects them, and even to create solutions for that. And then the last thing that I'm going to mention, because we are so limited on time, is we have a challenge which is called STTA Bring Your Own Bottle Challenge. And with the Bring Your Own Bottle Challenge, this is where we give reusable bottles to students in these seminars. And when they go to destinations, they take a picture with that bottle against a prominent feature of that destination. And when they post that using the hashtag, they're also encouraging other people to use reusable bottles when they go to those destinations. This is a boost to the presidential directive that came in 2021 that protected areas within Kenya destinations. They are not, people are not allowed to use single-use plastic. So this is a boost. And also it comes as a challenge. And at the end of the year, we recognize students who excel in this. So it's one of the innovative ways to encourage people not to use single-use plastics. And it also reflects well on the Global Tourism Plastics Initiative, which we're also signatory. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dominic. I have my COP29 bottle. So I did bring it today. It's very inspiring, reminds us of the importance of local knowledge. Even if it's not scientific knowledge, it's very important. And if it carries on top of the knowledge, the youth perspective, something we should not neglect at all. We should, the opposite, we should integrate it as much as possible. I'm looking at Gunai now because I'm curious. If you have already started exchanging with, like more in details with operators. You mentioned the need to build capacities before, but you know, what kind of feedback are you getting in your discussions?
Thank you, Virginia. Yes, we have already begun initial discussions with key tourism stakeholders and experiences of our colleagues today here. Once again, reaffirm and confirm that we are in the right path. So thank you all for this. But as I said, yeah, we're in the very beginning of the process. We don't have much expertise and experience to share, but we decided to start with listening to stakeholders, businesses, and also local communities, and understand what their concerns are, what challenges they face, and what the priorities are. And for example, in Northern Nature, we will be traveling to a very rural area, UNESCO heritage site, and we have rather sustainability plan for that village. And we will meet the local community there and discuss with them their concerns, and then we will try to reflect those challenges and their priorities in the final document. So these are the small actions that we have already started taking, and also some pilot initiatives and projects. In January, Azerbaijan State Tourism Agency announced a grant program for tourism villages, which currently the number is 8. So for small initiatives, pilot programs in those villages that support also sustainability and also rural development for local communities. Also, yes, capacity building is also important, and this year we will continue our trainings for tourism businesses in regional areas. These regional areas will be our priority again this year, and we will conduct trainings for tourism businesses and local communities in tourism areas of Azerbaijan. So these are kind of, it's not, we try to develop a practical solution with the industry and also with local communities to ensure that it's realistic and economically viable for businesses to support us in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Gunay. We appreciate very much the openness to share. It's not an easy process. The colleagues that have been working on it for a few years now have been through it, and it takes a lot of backs and forths, a lot of mistakes. As somebody was saying, it's important to make mistakes and learn from them. But the network is here to support you. So really looking forward to advancing jointly. Now the question goes to Flora, and it's basically because a few months ago you released a blueprint for tourism climate action plans, which is a guide for regional authorities and DMOs, destination management organizations. Is the blueprint assisting destinations to connect their plans with climate risks? Can you give us a few details, Flora, please?
Yes, of course. Yes, indeed. So developed within the Intergovernment Community for Tourism project, the blueprint was developed with the understanding that regional authorities and DMOs, through their unique roles, can act in an integrated and more effective way, linking local reality with broader national and EU climate action initiatives. So the blueprint is based on 3 key principles. We are all learning together. There is no perfect plan, and everything is interconnected. So it offers a structured approach to climate action planning, guiding a destination through essential questions such as where are we now? Where do we want to go, and how can we get there? So to support the implementation of this document, the CPMA has been also developing a toolkit as part of the Intergovernment Nature for Climate Change project. And based on the blueprint, the toolkit provides a step-by-step methodology for climate action planning, including a scheduler with 4 key stages. So the first one is the establishing enabling condition, the second one setting objectives, the third one selecting action and defining indicators to track progress, and the fourth one finalizing the climate action plan. The toolkit also includes an action planner, so including the potential actions and ranking criteria to help score them. Some example of action, of course, to inspire regions and destination, and a template to facilitate planning. So the toolkit is currently in pilot phase with 5 Mediterranean regions and 6 destinations where nature-based solution will be implemented. However, of course, it is designed for global application and can support climate action planning anywhere. So to facilitate the use of the blueprint and the toolkit, online capacity building sessions are currently being organized as part of Community for Tourism project. The final session focusing on evaluating and monitoring climate action plans will take place the 27th of February. This session is designed for all regions and DMOs, whether Mediterranean or not, but anyone is welcome, of course, to join and listen in. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. It's been wonderful to get all these final questions and answers rapid fire together. And I think that what I reflect on as we push up against time is that we're all sharing this opportunity to share our stories and writing these new stories through climate action. And what's developed over the last few years is, rather than struggling to fill the time, we now struggle to meet the time, because there's just so much happening that wasn't happening before. You can see 382, I think it is now, published climate action plans, examples, each one of which we could have gone into depth for half an hour or more, hearing the stories. And I would say on that note that there are more and more case studies inside of the UN tourism, or the One Planet Network, Glasgow Declaration website, where people have gone into more detail about some of the examples you hear more and others. And as we hear, I thought the example when Judy mentioned the example of the working with the chefs, that this isn't about climate experts. This is about all of us, the stories that all of us, from the experts here with us today to the chefs with whom we work with and the youth and the communities. And the more that these stories come together, and both Dublin and the Maldives specifically talked about the importance of storytelling, then we are coming together against this challenge and working together to weave a new story for our sector. And with that, I hand back to Virginia to bring us to a close.
If anybody has a pressing question, please post it in the chat and we will try to answer it as fast as possible. I wanted to close again with a poll. We can take a minute to do the poll again. See if you would change or not your 3 choices of before. What would you say are the 3 key elements of climate resilient tourism development after hearing the stories of our colleagues here in the panel? Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your learnings, your challenges. How are you addressing them? The replies are anonymous, by the way, and just remember not cheating, just 3 selections, please. Let's see how if our understanding has evolved. We will be able to process this later on and inform you. Jeremy, I don't know if you want to share maybe some thoughts about the different elements we outlined in connection with what we heard today.
Yeah, I have to now remember them because I've answered the poll myself, and therefore the poll has vanished from my screen. But I think that those 10 elements that we focused there, which we have heard all of them touched on there, from talking about the need to ensure funding at a local, at a national, at an international level, the need and examples that were shared of how businesses, destinations are shifting, flexible operations, whether it is attracting people to come out of summer to cooler destinations or redesigning itineraries in the face of harder weather conditions. But most of all, for me, is that we've heard so many different examples at all these different scales and forms of business and of organization, that resilience is the interconnection of the supply chain, of the community, of the network at every different level. And resilience is literally about the building of stronger relationships, and that stronger relationships comes through the stronger relationships across all of our network. Not that I want to lead anyone's answers.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. I share the views. People's angle is extremely important, of course, on resilience, but it's colliding with the ecology aspect of the destination's preservation. Maybe we can see what the poll produced, Roxana. We're all curious now. Okay. So we see now still very much prominent implement nature-based solutions. We see strengthening supply chains. I think that one has grown a bit, although I don't have the reference of the previous one. Improve visitor awareness. Of course, our colleagues have shared a lot about this and how important it is. The ones on energy are more or less stable. I think that we had the same scoring. Local communities supporting them in extreme weather, 27%, and undertakes risk assessments, 29%. Food for thought, food for thought. I am not sure, maybe we should have scored higher a bit the support to local communities, colleagues, but let's continue reflecting about this. As I said, this is not, this is an open-ended discussion with our signatories. We will have another session this afternoon for those that are in a time zone that allows you. It will start at 4 p.m. Central European time, and we will hear from colleagues in the Americas. And once we have carried out the second round of discussion, we will be sharing with you our key takeaways and reflections. So really, thanks a lot for staying with us, for allowing us to have extra minutes, and for the work that you do. I leave you here. More soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Lovely to see
you.
you all.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.